Murphy's Builder Supply is where you need to go for all your home improvement projects and hardware needs. They've been serving folks in this area since 1946. Murphy's offers some products and services that you may not know about. They now sell ammunition, both bullets and shells. Murphy's also sells personalized tags for dog collars. They build customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly doorbuster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for business, practicing social distancing, but still serving that great food that Damon's is famous for. Come inside or come through the drive-thru, but Damon's is open inside and welcomes back its customers. The menu's the same, the service is fast, and the food is fantastic, and the sauces remain the same, mild, wild, insane, or inferno. The number is the same, 588-WING, 588-9464. Damon's Restaurant on West Cherry Street in Jessup. Dining room now open for business. Come on in and enjoy a great meal today.
A bank that puts people first. First Southern Bank, investing in you since 1907. Serving Jessup, Patterson, and Waycross. A true community bank led by experienced neighborhood bankers that live and work in our community. Offering competitive loan options for commercial and consumer clients. Stop by the Jessup branch and meet branch manager Mandy Yeomans and her fantastic team. Call 912-810-1540. Let First Southern Bank be your bank of choice. First Southern Bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
World famous Butch and Bob Show on WIFO, brought to you this morning by Murphy Builder Supply, First Southern Bank, and Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jonathan. Good morning, everybody. Again, today on the world famous Butch and Bob Show. Again, as we mentioned yesterday, Tuesday marked 7 days to Election Day, November 3rd, and we're following the elections. In the studio with us is a candidate running for District Attorney, Keith Higgins. He's been with us before. Got the number of signatures that you need to get on the ballot, so you're on the ballot officially. Is that correct?
That's correct. Had a lot of good people get out there and beat the bushes during hard times, hard economic times, and during a pandemic to get a lot of signatures for me. We ended up with more than 8,500 signatures total, and the Board of Election down in Glenn County is still yet to count them all. So kudos to them. They did a fantastic job. They wanted to have a choice as to who their next district attorney was going to be, and now they will.
How many signatures did you have to get? What was the number that you had? Did they give you a number?
The original number was 5,038, and then that was reduced by 30% due to the COVID pandemic down to 3,526. And I'm happy to say that due to the hard work of all the people that got out there and worked their tails off, quite frankly, we would have had enough to get on the ballot without the reduction.
And who's in charge of making sure those signatures are correct, and who has to go through that process?
Well, the Secretary of State does that. On August 3, I filed the original petitions with the Secretary of State's office, Election Division, up in Atlanta. Personally delivered them up there, and they did an initial review and then sent the petitions down to the boards of election in each of the 5 counties. And then the boards of election went through the petitions that pertained to their county and verified the signatures and then reported back to the Secretary of State.
When you're running as an independent, would that be on the ballot? Would say IND, or how's that? It's like most, like if it's a Republican, they get an R, Democrat get a D. What do they put independent?
I don't,
just an I, or what?
I don't know for sure. I haven't really inquired into that. I think it's going to be IND period. But my name will appear first on the ballot for district attorney if they do it alphabetically like they normally do. And so it's going to be, my name's on the ballot. And even though I'm running as an independent, it's one of those things that justice has no party. Justice is fairness, treating everybody equally fair regardless of who they are or who they know, upholding the law and the Constitution, and enforcing the law without fear, favor, or affection. So that's what I'm about. That's what I'll do.
If you just joined us, Keith Higgins in the studios with us. Again, we assume everybody knows who you are. So we've had you in here. We know who you are, but there's people out there that may not know who Keith Higgins is in the district. Like I said, we go to Appleton and Jeff Davis and all that in the areas that you're running. So tell people who Keith Higgins is and why you decided to run for this office.
Well, I've been married for 38 years to my wife, Virginia. We were high school sweethearts. Raised 4 kids down in Glenn County, lived there for 32 years. Came down there in February of 1988 to work for Glenn Thomas Jr., who was district attorney at the time. And after coming to work for him, I worked for the final 8 years of his tenure in office, worked for the entire 14 years of Stephen Kelly's term in office. Prior to that, I basically grew up in Cobb County for most of my life. About a week before I graduated from high school, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps Reserve because my parents told me that they couldn't afford to send me to college because my brother had gone the year before. So instead of becoming a bulldog where I had been admitted to go to the University of Georgia, I became a devil dog instead. Served 7 years, in the United States Marine Corps Reserve. During that time, I went to, after coming off active duty, I went to Kennesaw College, which is now Kennesaw State University, worked my way through college, worked at a job during my entire time in college, was in the reserves during that time, weekend duty, 2 weeks in the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. Did that as well during my first year into my second year of law school at Mercer Law School. And then, like I said, I came down to Brunswick to work with Mr. Thomas. My entire life's basically been involved in service to the community in one way or the other. I was an Eagle Scout. Like I said, I was in the United States Marine Corps Reserve. I served this judicial circuit as an assistant district attorney for almost 23 years. And and I'm an active member with my wife in St. Simon's Island Community Church, where we have served in the youth ministry.
So what are you doing now? You in private practice now, or?
Yes, I'm in private practice now. I left the district attorney's office in November of 2010. As often happens when a new district attorney comes in, after the current district attorney was appointed, there were some personnel changes that were made, and myself and other people had to get employment elsewhere. So I opened a law office there in Brunswick and have been practicing law for be 10 years come this November.
So you're familiar with Glenn County. We just had the story this week where the judge ruled that it's not going to be on the ballot, as far as there was a big controversy in the legislature passed where the people are going to vote whether or not to dissolve the Glenn County Police Department. Now that's been taken off the ballot because they ruled it unconstitutional. So what's been the reaction in Glenn County? People happy about that, not happy about that, or?
I think the reaction in Glenn County as a whole has been mixed. Some people like it, some people don't. Ultimately, it's going to be the decision of the county commission as to what happens in that regard at this point, as I understand it. And whatever happens with that, as district attorney, I'll work with whatever law enforcement agencies exist and do everything I can in my power to make them as good as they can be.
Yeah, there's been a controversy down there. Like I say, Jay Wiggins was interim for quite some time, but they decided to give him the job full time. You said you know him, pretty good guy.
Yeah, Jay's a great guy. I knew him when he was a detective with the Glenn County Police Department years ago, before he became the director of the Emergency Management Agency there in Glenn County. So he's a good guy. He was a great detective. He's going to be a great chief.
And again, everybody's familiar with the Glenn County incident at Almont Albury. That was the last time I was down in Glenn County, was at that hearing. They had the initial hearing. Have things settled down in Glenn County, or are they still protesting? Or
well, there was a protest of some type at the courthouse yesterday. I've been told or heard, but things have always been peaceful down there in Glenn County due to there hadn't been anything that's going on in Portland or Seattle or any places like that, and so it's always been peaceful protests down there, and I expect that it will be going forward.
Yeah, Buddy Carter talked about that. He commended the leadership down there in Glenn County for be able to control, because like I said, they've had a lot of protests. Even at the time I was at the courthouse, there was 500-600 people standing outside the courthouse, but it was a peaceful protest, nothing crazy, no buildings destroyed or things like that. So that's been the good news down in Glenn County. They've been able to actively protest, which you're allowed to do, but they've done it peacefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, I think that's to the credit of the community leaders down there, the ministers. They've actually had prayer there on the courthouse steps for unity and in the community, and that's where the focus needs to be as to that. Acts of vandalism, acts of property destruction, causing harm to other people, and committing crimes are unacceptable. Anyone who does that needs to be prosecuted and held responsible for it.
As we asked all the candidates during the pandemic, how do you get out and see people? We talked to the sheriff candidates while they're there. I know you've had several events at the farmers market here, other events in the district. Like I said, this is a 5-county district for those that may not be familiar. It's called the Brunswick Judicial Circuit. It's Wayne, Appleton, Jeff Davis, Camden, and Glenn. Those are the 5 counties involved. So it's a pretty big circuit. So out campaigning, I imagine you're putting a lot of miles on your vehicle.
Well, absolutely. I mean, as you say, it's a very large judicial circuit. It's over 100 miles from end to end. You pretty much, if you go to the upper end of the county there in Hazelhurst or go up to Baxley, then it pretty much takes a day just to go up there, do what you need to do, and come back down to Brunswick. But that's the road I chose to go on, so to speak, and campaigning in the time of COVID has been very interesting. We have done door-to-door canvassing prior to the shelter in place. We've gone back to that where we knock on the door, step back 6 feet, and we sort of take a cue from the person that comes to the door as far as what they feel comfortable with under those circumstances. We haven't had a lot of meet and greets because of it, but we've gone to whatever events there have been where large groups of people may be and interacted with them as we can.
Again, we're less than 7 weeks away. Again, what do you think are the issues in this race? Again, you're running against an incumbent, which is always tough to beat, but it's been done. We saw that in the sheriff's race here. So,
right.
But how do you get out and defeat the incumbent?
Well, I mean, you just get out there, you try to make yourself known, you try to let people know who you are and what you're about. And I'm about you just interact and talk with as many people as you can. And that's what I'm trying to do, with myself and the volunteers that I have that are helping me. I let people know that, given who I am, where I come from, what my values are, that I'm about equal justice for all. Justice is fairness. Treating everybody fairly, regardless of who they are or who they know, upholding the law and the Constitution without fear, favor, or affection, and letting them know what my vision is for the district attorney's office, which is to make the office more accountable to the public by having a citizens advisory council in each of the 5 counties and meeting with them at least once a month, having that made up of a diversity that reflects the community. I don't want to operate from an ivory tower. I want to know what the issues are in the community. I want to address them. I want to have feedback. I want to personally address any questions or concerns that the public has. And I want to make the policies and procedures of the office publicly known so that people can hold me accountable as district attorney if we fail to do what we said we would. I also want to make the office more efficient and effective for victims and their families. Justice delayed is justice denied. Victims and their families deserve to have their day in court as soon as possible. And to do that, one of the things that I'm going to work to do is to add more full-time prosecutors to the office. Only a prosecuting attorney can decide whether or not there's sufficient evidence to prosecute a case. Only a prosecuting attorney can decide to indict a case. Can indict a case and present it to the grand jury. Only a prosecuting attorney can try a case. Nothing happens in a case unless there's sufficient prosecutors to go forward with it. I'm going to reorganize the office to make it more efficient and effective, to prevent unnecessary delays in the system where defense counsel asks for continuances because they haven't gotten their discovery yet. Going to provide that at arraignment, which is the earliest possible court proceeding after a case has been indicted. And so with all of those things, you it's not about just closing cases, but it's about doing what's right in each and every case. I'm about doing what's right, doing it in the right way, and doing it for the right reason.
This pandemic has caused havoc with a lot of things, a lot of schedules, but the court system has really been affected. I talked to Steve Kelly the other day. He was in town, saw him. And he said that they don't even have a grand jury right now. They can't even do a grand jury. They can't have jury trials because of the pandemic. All these cases are being backlogged, but as Kelly says, he keeps looking for some help from the state because he says you can't keep people in jail forever. So how do you see this playing out?
Well,
when do you think they're going to pick grand juries, and when do you think we'll see court cases?
Well, if I heard correctly, from Justice Harold Melton of the Georgia Supreme Court, his new order allows grand juries to start meeting again. We anticipate sometime next month that trial juries will be authorized to begin, and jury trials may possibly resume before the close of the year. So what you do is the best you can. You still got to seek and do justice, so you can't cut corners. You can't be more lenient in a case than you ought to be. Right is right and wrong is wrong. So you just do the best that you can with the situation that presents itself to you.
As I mentioned, it's a 5-county circuit. There's offices in each circuit. So if you get elected, do you have the staff already in place, or you got people in mind that are going to work for you, or how's that work?
Well, there's already a staff in place, and I really haven't given that thought in terms of, what will take place with regard to the staff once I'm elected. I do want to add more additional prosecutors, and there's a way that I have in mind that can be accomplished. So in terms of existing staff and what may happen with those are decisions. I think it would be presumptuous of me to be making those kind of decisions or thoughts right now. I'm focused on campaigning so that I can get in this office, so that I can serve the people of Wayne County and the other counties in this judicial circuit, to be their servant, to be accountable to them, to be answerable to them, to do the job that they deserve.
So what's the schedule between now and November? Are there any debates set up? Has anybody done that? Any Chamber of Commerce or anything, set up any forums or anything?
Well, the Chamber of Commerce, Monday of this coming week, is basically going to be more of a recorded meet and greet, if you will, that they're going to do.
Is that in Wayne County?
That's here in Wayne County, in the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce.
What day is that scheduled for?
This coming Monday, September 21. It's not going to be a live event. It's going to be an event that it's going to be an occasion where statements are going to be given. It's sort of like a meet and greet. It's going to be recorded, and I believe the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce will post it on their website. There's supposed to be a debate with the Kiwanis Club of Brunswick. That the tentative date for that, I believe, is October the 8th, if I recall, 5th or 8th, if I recall correctly. So we're still waiting to firm that up. I'm open and willing to debate my opponent anywhere, anytime. If she's willing, I'm willing. So right now, the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce event was supposed to have been a debate, and then the decision was made for it not to be. And I think that was made by the Chamber of Commerce, not by any candidate.
Right. So again, it's just a race between now and November 3rd. The early voting gets underway, however, in October. In fact, early voting gets underway on the 13th of October all the way to the 30th. So again, and also absentee ballots go out September 18th. So despite the fact that the election is November 3rd, votes are going to start being counted or being tabulated or rolling in as early as late September.
Absolutely. I spoke at the Brunswick Exchange Club yesterday. I spoke to the Rotary Club here of Jessup last week, I believe, and I'm getting out and speaking to as many people with as many organizations as I can.
Good. Anything else you want to say before we let you go, or anything that you pretty much laid out your platform, but anything specifically you want to address that is taking place now that you're unhappy with, or why is that?
Well, I just think cases need to be presented. One of the things to speed up the day in court for victims and their families is cases need to be presented to the grand jury as soon as the office has sufficient credible evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. There are cases in this judicial circuit pre-COVID that have been pending for more than a year without indictment. I think there's no reason for that to take place. And so I believe the victims and their families deserve their day in court as soon as possible. So in addition to the things that I mentioned earlier about adding more prosecutors to the office, the cases need to be presented more promptly and quickly to the grand jury for indictment to start the court process. Because if the court process does not begin by indictment, there's no day in court possible.
I'm just hoping to see a jury trial soon. Like I said, I missed going to cover trials, but everything's been put on hold due to this COVID-19. But you're saying possibility that we'll see jury trials before the end of the year.
There's a possibility of that in my mind. Well, I mean, the future remains to be seen. I know
the judges are pushing. Like I said, I talked to Judge Kelly. I could see the frustration. He was like, he said you can't keep people in jail for eventually they're going to have to just decide to have a court case. I mean, so I know a lot of court cases are taking place with the police and things like that because they can do that virtual and live stream. But as far as picking a jury and a grand jury, I mean, all that's been put on hold for the time being. So hopefully that'll come to an end soon.
Hopefully so. I mean, it's, we can't help things that are going on with regard to the pandemic, so all one can do is the best they can with that situation, and hopefully we can have grand juries meeting and jury trials here soon.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in, Keith. Again, like I said, we'll have you in between now and November, I'm sure, but we'll look forward to the chamber event. Also try to find out what that date down in Brunswick is with the debate. The Kiwanis Club, you said, is putting that on. Where would that take place at?
That should take place at the Kiwanis Club down there in Brunswick. And
where do they meet at?
I couldn't tell you right now.
I got you. We'll try to find that location and possibly be able to cover that. That'd be a good event to cover. So, yeah, we appreciate you coming in. Like I said, I hate that the weather was bad on your drive in, but I appreciate you being here in studio and wish you the best of luck, and we'll continue to follow the campaign between now and November.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate you having me in, and always enjoy coming up here to Wayne County.
Okay, we'll be back to close out the Butch and Bob Show after this.
And then along came Walker Jones.